Hi, this is Melanie for Pardesi Reviews. I braved the Chicago cold and weather and went out to see Uri starring Vicky Kaushal. So when I say I braved the cold, I really meant it. It was minus 14 degrees today, Celsius, so 6 degrees Fahrenheit when I braved the cold, and it's going to be even colder tomorrow here in Chicago, colder than Antarctica, colder than Mount Everest. That's how crazy cold it is. My son's school is shut down for the next couple of days. Anyway, so I braved the cold, all bundled up to watch Uri. War films are not really necessarily my thing, but everyone had been saying it's really worth seeing, and I was curious to see Vicky Kaushal in a leading role. This is his. I mean, he had Masan, of course, and he had Love Per Square Foot, which was on Netflix here. But this is a different kind of a thing. To have a big action picture like this and for him to be the star is quite an achievement. The movie is written directed by Aditya Dhar, and this is his first feature film debut. It's quite an accomplished feature film debut. I feel like this has set a new bar for Hindi action films. It was, the word I would use is slick. It's really slick. It felt like Hollywood level war movies of this kind. It felt like that kind of action. It had great sound for all the gunfire and everything. When you felt like you were literally, as Vicky Kaushal and the soldiers are going through the terrorist buildings and the gunfight is you feel like you're in the middle of it and it's happening all around you the same way that is happening to Vicky. This film focuses in on Vicky. We see him in action in an earlier raid in 2015 before all the things that happened in Uri. And so we see how competent he is and how close he is with his group of soldiers. He's a great leader. You can just see all the soldiers love to follow him. Well, something's going on in his personal life. His mother has Alzheimer's, so he asks for... the army doesn't want to let him go, but they station him in New Delhi so that he can care for his mother or be with his family. And we learn a little bit about the camaraderie between the friendships within his unit. We learn a little bit about his family, and it's one of his family members that we see in that amazing scene, the funeral scene that we saw in the trailer. So after a personal loss, he is driven to be a part of the retaliation, to be a part of the mission to go into Pakistan and retaliate for the attack on Uri. So we see the whole attack happen, and then we see some of the planning, and then at the very, so that's like the second half is where we start with the planning and so forth. So there's a lot of backstory about him, about his family, about his situation. And then we get, at the end, we get a little bit of how they find the places where they need to attack and the attack itself. I can only compare it to Zero Dark 30, Catherine Bigelow's film about finding Osama bin Laden. So there's some similar scenes, we saw them in the trailer, of them interrogating terrorists to try to find more information on where to find the person who was the mastermind for the entire thing. Vicky Kaushal trained with real soldiers, and he carries himself with that military bearing. He bulked up massively for this role. He looks physically completely different than he did in the other films that he did last year, where he's much more slender, his normal body type. He looks the part. At least from my amateur view, he kind of embodied that military kind of stance and way of walking and all of that. So the physicality he totally had. And at one point, there is a very close quarters fight with a terrorist, and it's quite an intense. This is realistic kind of action, not masala, wire work kind of craziness. It's an intense, gritty kind of scene. The only thing, the quibbles that I would have, I felt like, again, the action sets a new bar, but I didn't feel this sense of tension, like were they going to be able to find them? It was always, okay, we're so competent, we're so technologically advanced that it's easy for us to find them. That was, so there wasn't a level of tension of, are they going to be able to find the right person? So I didn't feel that. That's not the kind of movie it is. We're always seeing how they're ahead of the game, ahead of the Pakistanis, and how they have informants in key places that help them do what they need to do. While I didn't feel a sense of tension, you can't help but admire the execution and how Aditya Dhar has made these action scenes so impactful. Although the final scene where Vicky in hand-to-hand combat kills someone and just screams the army chant was a little bit over the top for me. We have Raja Kapoor playing Prime Minister Modi, and I recently saw him. He was in Razi playing Alia Bhatt's father, so it was interesting seeing him in that role. And also, interestingly, there's two women that get prominent roles in the operation. One is Yami Gautam, who plays a raw agent, and then we have Kirti Kulhari, who plays a pilot, who is very integral to the operation. So I did appreciate that they, in what could have just been a completely testosterone-filled movie, there were two key roles of women that were involved in the entire operation. So I like that. The movie I didn't think was the greatest ever, and I don't think this is Vicky Kaushal's greatest role ever, but I think it's a solid action movie. It's an entertaining, enjoyable movie. I know it has jingoistic tones to it, and I'm sure there were lines that were spoken of dialogue that had shades of meaning for people in India watching that were going over my head. But overall, it was an enjoyable movie. It was nice. I'm having a little bit of cabin fever here with all the cold, so it was nice to have a break and get out and see Vicky Kaushal kicking butt on screen. So let me know what you thought about this movie if you had a chance to see it in the theater. Do follow me on Twitter at PardesiYT. Please do subscribe here to Pardesi channel. And if you hit the bell when you subscribe, then you'll get a notification whenever I have a new trailer reaction or a film review.